Committee's overview and scrutiny panel. My name is Christopher Robin Hollick, and it's really quite an interesting opportunity that I have tonight, and I would ask you to be slightly gentle with me as we go through it for the first time. But it's really nice to see you here, and we'll make a start. Yeah. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed by HDC. Members and officers must use the desk microphones in order for this to work. Only 2 microphones, in addition to the chairman, can be on at the same time. Mobile phones. Members and the public should switch off phones. Fire exits. The fire exits are to my right or through the door to my left. If there is a fire, then we would meet at the top end of Mill Hill Car Park. Okay. Apologies for absence. Democratic Services have received apologies from Councillors Taylor and Woodwith. Councillor Woodwith is being substituted tonight by Councillor James. Good evening, Councillor James. Declaration of members' interest. Are there any? No? Okay. Right. Draft minutes of the Service and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Panel, the 7th of May 2026. I'd like to propose it, please. Anybody propose?
The minutes.
A seconder for the minutes? Yes.
It's been lorries.
Okay.
Just for the benefit of the live stream, we're just having some noise issues. Bear with us.
There's been some old army vehicles, it looks like, going past. But I couldn't see any more coming down the streets.
Here we go.
Although they might be coming down. So we might just need to be really loud.
Yes. Okay. Well, I have a loud voice at the best of times. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4, portfolio holder update, community safety and regulatory services. Sorry?
Did we take a vote on the minutes?
Oh, sorry, I do apologise. All in favour?
Still vote if you want.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes.
All right, item 4, portfolio holder update, community safety and regulatory services. Unfortunately, Councillor Rickman can't be with us tonight, and so Kat Hartley, Director of Communities and Wellbeing, will take us through the report.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just presenting this on behalf of Councillor Rickman. So I will briefly run through the report and then happy to take any questions at the end. The portfolio holder update for this meeting is community safety and regulatory services. And this is a brief few highlights on what's happening in the portfolio at the moment. In terms of community safety, the team are continuing to respond to antisocial behaviour reports and cases and working in close partnership with the police. And of course, we have the further information later on in the agenda on the community safety partnership. So I perhaps won't cover any more of that through this report. But just to mention that the action plan for the community safety partnership work forms part of the annual partnership strategic assessment, which is close to agreement and publication. So this document sets out the priorities for the partnership, and it also guides the funding for the partnership for this current year, which comes from the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, and that funding for this current year is £37,479. So further details will emerge on that in due course. Just in terms of licensing, in addition to the usual day-to-day licensing activities, the team are in one of their busiest periods as we see lots of summer events taking place, and just a moment ago heard some preparation for one of those with the 1940s vehicles going past the offices. The team working to ensure that the events have the appropriate licences in place, that all relevant agencies are consulted on the plans. Information on licensing and event planning can be found on the council's website, so if anybody's thinking of planning an event or wants to know more information about events, then they can have a look on the council's website. We also have the Visit Harbour website as well. In terms of environmental health, the team are currently dealing with a large number of complex and in some cases high profile and sensitive investigations. These include a large illegal waste dump in Showell near Lutterworth. The Environment Agency are leading the investigation on this one, and the council are responsible for monitoring any gases and odour arising from that incident. Also dealing with a private water supply matter near Misterton, ongoing antisocial behaviour noise cases in Market Harbour, Lutterworth and other areas, and a number of hoarding cases within properties involving extremely vulnerable residents. So that just gives you a feel for the complexity and range of some of the cases that the team are dealing with at the moment. And also just to mention as well that this year's air quality report, so that's called the annual status report, which we are required to submit to DEFRA every year, is currently being produced. That will go to Cabinet in September, so that will be considered there. We'll be able to see more details at that point. And then just finally to mention in terms of food safety, the annual service plan for the food service has been drafted. So this is the service that undertakes inspections of our food businesses, required to have that plan in place by the Food Standards Agency, and it sets out the intended work plan for the year ahead, and will be submitted to the FSA over the next few weeks. The plan introduces a number of additional initiatives on top of the inspections and other work that we usually undertake. So for the first time, we'll be actively targeting our low risk food businesses with newsletters, which give them information on how they can familiarise themselves with the regulations and keep up to date in perhaps an easier to digest way. So that is the update, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Has anybody got any questions on Councillor Rickman's report? If we're unable to answer them tonight, then we will get back to you. So, yes.
Right.
Yes, Bremner, Councillor Bremner.
As it's community safety, and you've indicated some of the incidents that have come across the district, I'm thinking more of the antisocial. And I'm wondering whether there's any particular reoccurring hotspots, and whether, not related to hotspot, but whether there's particular age groups or even at particular times of year that I can guess when it's more prevalent. Any thoughts on that?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Yes, there is a lot of data. I don't have some of it I've got this evening, which is covered in the report that we're going to consider later on the agenda. So that presents information such as the profile of the types of properties that we get called out to and that sort of thing. In terms of some of that more detailed data, I would perhaps have to come back to you on that, but we do collate that data. So we have information in relation to where the cases are, in terms of the cases that we deal with. We have information on the types of cases that they are. I would have to check on the age profile. I'm not sure whether we take ages of complainants or perpetrators. I'd have to check on that, but we do have quite a considerable amount of data that we can provide.
Just, this is a follow-up to that, but it might not be something you can answer. In the Crime Policing Act 2026, it says in paragraph 1, there's a page 26, it says stronger enforcement capability to tackle the most relentless adult ASB offenders. So that's anyone 18 and above. If you go to page 29, it states under B, under antisocial behaviour, the community protection notice that are used for low-level environmental ASB, they're intended to stop persons aged 16 or over. So to my mind, I could only find that age reference in that paperwork. So how do you as officers interpret that? Because there seems to be a gap there in the expression of the Act as it's written. Because I'm sure there's a relentless ASB of people under 18, and equally tending to stop persons aged 86 and over. There are younger kids that do ASB, so the Act doesn't seem to encompass that. But that's my reading of it. I don't know if you've read that detail.
Yes, I think inevitably the various pieces of legislation in the Act will make different provisions for different age groups. Obviously, over 18 is adult, so we then have the full range of enforcement options open to us for adults. But over 16, you then have a different range of options available to you. Under 16 is very difficult because obviously children, so the law is very different in relation to children.
Okay, yes, Councillor Modi.
Moda. Thank you, Chair. I was going to say that, yeah, I kind of would be interested in seeing what the age of the perpetrators and how you sort of assimilate that information, just to sort of target in on who's doing what and, you know, and why, I suppose, is the reason as well. Is it boredom or is it just sort of teenagers with nothing else to do? And the other thing is with the community safety team, I understand from reading this, it says the remaining 3 requests did not meet the locally agreed threshold and therefore did not progress. So what is the threshold
Sorry,
for the community safety team? It says 3.17, the antisocial behaviour, page 21. Is there is the threshold explained of why this didn't progress because of the threshold, it says? Yeah. Page 21.
So is this one of the reports that we're going to talk about later that we're referring to?
I think it's
Sorry, I've
part
got
of, isn't it?
lost.
That's on the community safety partnership report.
Okay, bear with me because we're on a
Okay.
different agenda item. So I just need to.
sorry.
That's okay,
I've
don't
just been
worry, it's
flicking
okay.
and it sort of came to. I'm just wondering what the threshold is because if it doesn't meet the locally agreed threshold, I'm just wondering what that is and what would render meeting that.
Okay, it would appear we've sort of got ahead of ourselves, so if we
Oh.
can wait till we get to
Oh,
that
sorry. I
report, if
thought this
that's
was
okay.
part of- Oh, right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll come to that.
Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Asher.
Yeah, just a quick question. I just wondered what low-risk food businesses are. 'Cause it says at the end that they will be in the form of a newsletter. I just wondered what that means.
Can you respond to that?
Yeah. Okay, so just picking up, it was a question from yourself, Councillor Asher, about what a low risk food business is. Okay, so food businesses are categorised as that's set out in the Food Standard Agency guidance. So they all receive a categorisation within certain criteria. So your high risk food businesses would be things like restaurants, pubs, something where they've got a lot of throughput, where your sole focus of that business is serving and producing food, catering businesses, that sort of thing. Your low risk food businesses, I am generalising here because obviously there's a lot of categorisation. Your low risk food businesses will be things like, for example, if you've got a something that is not primarily a food business, but they might be selling food on site. So if you've got, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but a grocery store, and then somebody just makes some food and sells. So that would be a sort of low risk where it's not primarily food. I can't give you all of the exact categories tonight, but we can certainly.
No, that's great.
forward
Thank
that,
you. I just wondered what it meant.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Elliott.
Did do.
We can't hear you very well.
Sorry. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got basically what I said. The police can't do anything because they're under 16, but what they did do on one occasion is go to the parents and made them pay for the damage they did, which I think is a good idea.
Thank you. Councillor Mahal.
Yeah, I just wanted to know that you said that you've started to actively target the low-level businesses. I mean, how long have you been targeting them, and do we have any sort of stats on that, or?
If we could just one at a time, please, so we can hear everything. Thank you.
We've always been working with the low risk food businesses, but what we've been doing recently is thinking about how we can not just have one standard approach for all food businesses, but work differently depending on what the business need is. So this is just another way really of, so I don't have any statistics, I'm afraid. It's relatively new, but it is just another way of getting the information out there that isn't just having, going out and doing a formal inspection.
Yes, John.
So would that be to actively target them to because they're doing something wrong, or is that to make them aware of potential dangers?
Just to make them aware of, yeah. So the Food Standards Agency requires that we inspect all food businesses. So that doesn't change. It's just we're just always thinking about different ways of doing it.
Thank you, Kat. Before I bring Councillor Bremner in, any other comments or questions, Councillor?
Just an awareness that some of the discussion, including me, we focused a bit on the under 16s, just a little tad. And I'd just like to say that young people on the whole are great. And it's just a minority, and it's a minority whether they're young or older. And so I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
We're going to move on then to item 5, and before we start, I'd just like to say that an enormous amount of work have gone into the next reports that we're going to read and listen to. So we're going to go forward now with decision or actions taken by the Community Safety Partnership. The report will now be introduced by Kat Hartley, Director of Communities and Wellbeing, which aims to provide a review of the operation, decisions and actions taken by the Harbour Community Safety Partnership during the 25-26 municipal year. Kat.
Thank you, Chair. And apologies, I know there were some questions that you were keen to ask members about this report earlier on. The only reason I paused was because sometimes for people listening online as well, it's a bit confusing if we haven't presented the report, because then they don't know what we're talking about effectively. So hence why I was pausing. But obviously I'll present this report and then we can you can ask your questions. So this report is decisions and actions taken by the Community Safety Partnership. And the reason that we're bringing this report is because local authorities have a statutory duty under Section 19 of the Police and Justice Act to scrutinise the decisions and actions of the Community Safety Partnership. So by undertaking this report and presenting this report to you and having the debate this evening, we are discharging that statutory duty. And I'm sure you're all obviously interested to know about the work anyway, and to have an opportunity to feed into that and to make any recommendations you may want to for onward consideration by Cabinet. So I'll just briefly introduce a little bit more of the report. And then I think I will bring in Alec as well, who has put a significant amount of work into this report as well, and may want to say a few things about it. So as I said, the purpose of the report is to enable you to discharge the scrutiny function by reviewing the operation, decisions and actions of the Community Safety Partnership. The partnership itself is a statutory partnership, and it brings together key organisations and agencies primarily working to reduce crime, disorder, antisocial behaviour, substance misuse, reoffending and other community safety issues. They were introduced by the Crime and Disorder Act 1998, so they've been in place for a relatively long period of time, and we have a well-established CSP here in Harborough, made up of ourselves, the police, County Council, Youth Offending Service, Fire and Rescue Service, Integrated Care Board, Probation Service, Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, and others as required. We routinely have attendance at the meetings from organisations such as Turning Point, for example, who provide valuable substance misuse recovery services. There are others as well that come along. So the partnership meets regularly, provides that strategic forum. We had a meeting yesterday, so just to reassure you that, you know, that is very much going strong. Chaired by Councillor Rickman, and tackles a number of key issues, including crime, drug and alcohol misuse, and social behaviour, reducing reoffending as well. I'll perhaps pause there. There is a huge amount of information in the report, so I'm not intending to go through all of it in detail. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to have a look at it, because it is a very interesting report. I might ask Alec if he's got anything that he wants to add at all.
Not much more to add on that, but it was certainly interesting for me writing the report, looking at the breadth of services that the Community Safety Partnership and the Community Safety Team deals with. And it was quite eye-opening, the challenges and the type of work they had to deal with. So, as Kat said, it meets quarterly, and it delegates a lot of its functions to a lot of different, I want to say, task groups. There's a structure in the report there. And as outlined in the report, there's its priorities there, which are the people, places and property, which you might want to take a look at. And there's also a note there about the wider casework recorded by the community safety team, and the numbers relating to housing association properties. I know members have been focused on that previously. So yeah, and you can see in the report the intervention statistics that they've used and the range of tools that they use. So one thing they did say to me when I was writing the report is they try and do it as informally as possible, as early as possible, and only move up and escalate it when they really have to. But happy for members to ask questions or chat.
Thank you, Kat and Alex. Hopefully you've all had the chance to have a look at the report, and we're going to be open to questions and comments, but one of the main things that we want to achieve tonight is to get recommendations from the panel. We will note the recommendations and we will review them again at the end of the discussion. So anybody have any questions or comments? Councillor Mahal.
Thank you. Was it Kat who presented it? You said CSPs were first established in 1998. Have the partners that are within that partnership, have they always, how long have they been there? How were they chosen? Are they changed? And if so, how often? The partnerships, you know, the stakeholders within that. Yeah, that can be answered first. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, you go.
The core organisations are required, so they are all named is probably the best way to describe it in the Act as required to come together. So all of the core organisations that are set out on page 16, so that's 2.3, will be required to attend. I can't tell you exactly how long the partnership's been in place in its current form, because that predates when I was here, but it's been a long time. Community safety partnerships are very well established, so all of those core organisations have been attending. They all attend well. They sometimes personnel change, that's inevitable. So for example, we've got a new police inspector for the area. He attended the meeting yesterday. So all agencies, I can reassure you, are very committed. And then we do have, as I mentioned, other organisations that come along. Sometimes they'll do presentations, sometimes they'll come along for specific agenda items. systems. So Turning Point is a really good example because they do a lot of work with the CSP and with the community safety team and with our housing team. So they are at most of the meetings, and they have actions within the action plan. Some others might just dip in and out, but yeah, it's very well established and there's a good level of commitment.
Councillor Bremner.
I was just looking at the structure, and the reporting is very much what they see and what is reported to them, it seems to me. But what underpins some of this domestic abuse, some of it leading to death, is what people use and see on the internet and what is happening in private chat groups or private parts of the internet. And I think this community partnership perhaps needs to lift its eyes a little bit and look at what is driving some of this behavior. And a lot of that is based on the internet. And I think they're missing a whole big trick there. And that is my recommendation, that the community safety partnership needs to partner with, I don't know, the police or somebody, if it's possible, because it's all confidential. But they all should have a degree of confidentiality within what they're doing. But if it's a community safety partnership, then I think what people are using that fuels the abuse should be something that the partnership begins to look at. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Noted. Councillor Asher. Oh, sorry. Oh,
Thank you.
Councillor Modi.
Moda. That's all right. Yeah, I just want to ask about the threshold again, if that's okay. So when it says that these requests did not meet the locally agreed threshold and therefore did not progress to a full review, what is the threshold for the antisocial behaviour case review?
Sorry, are you able to point me to which
Yeah,
section of which page?
Page 21.
Just so I know which
Three-
aspect.
3.17.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kat.
Okay, yeah. So what this is referring to is general antisocial behaviour cases and then case review requests. So if you have a look in the section above, it talks about all of the different types of reviews that we undertake. For those 4 antisocial behaviour case review requests, they are assessed against the threshold and determined whether or not they're going to progress to a full review. If they don't meet the threshold, then they won't progress to a full review. So just because we receive a request for review, it doesn't necessarily mean that it goes forward. It just depends on the details of that case and the threshold. You're going to ask me what the details are of that threshold. I will have to come back to you on that because I don't have the details in front of me. But yeah, we can certainly provide that.
Thank you. I'm just trying to sort of work out where the bar is. Thank you. If you can get that for me or us, thanks.
We've noted that and we'll get back to you on that. Councillor Asher.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so 3.2, and Kat touched on it as well. It says following political changes, the strategy meeting was postponed until July 2026. You said it took place yesterday, where partners will agree a new action plan. So I guess there's a different plan to what we're actually discussing tonight. Things will have changed, will they?
Yes and no. So the core work of the partnership doesn't change.
Okay.
What happens via the strategic assessment is that every year we look at all of the crime disorder and social behaviour, all of the data for all of these different categories to determine where the key priorities are that the partnership are going to address. So those key priorities are then taken forward into an action plan and specific interventions reach. So yes, that there is an element of change each year, because sometimes, so for example, what I can say, because we talked about it yesterday, is that vehicle theft is very high at the moment. It's gone up over the last year. So it's inevitable that what will come out through the strategic partnership assessment is agreement that that is something that will be focused on. And yesterday we had a lot of useful discussion about what we can do around that particular priority. So yes, those priorities may change slightly each year, and that is very responsive to what's going on in the area, just to make sure we're not focusing on something. But just to reassure you, just because we have specific priorities for the action plan for the funding, we still the partnership still covers everything that's listed there.
Okay, can I ask a few more on the report? Thank you. So 3.11 during the period of May 25 to 2026, community safety team reported 65 cases. Of those, 30 were relating to housing association that Alec touched on. I think so. 35 cases away from housing association in the whole district is not massive, and I think we're quite lucky in some respects with this. But I do wonder, do the community safety team go out to schools? Because I feel like prevention is better than cure. And I feel like if we get to young people and talk to them about different things and ways to behave, it may have more of an impact. You know, I know when I was at school, you know, an adult or somebody dressed in uniform coming into school, putting something on the telly, you know, actually telling you and showing you, especially if they've not got guidance at home so much, it could be a good way of getting to people before the problems occur. So I would quite like to see something like that in there. And my next comment, sorry, I'm not going to go on all night, is public spaces. In my area, we've obviously got public spaces that are managed by a management company. And sometimes when I've spoken to the community safety team, it's very difficult for them to actually enforce anything on ground that isn't council owned. So we have got a few issues on one of my estates, sometimes with antisocial behaviour and loose dogs and the likes. So it is very difficult for them to do anything. They are very good though, they do come out, and I think even the presence of having the community safety team come out to visit the site, or the police, or both, it does make residents feel heard, and it makes them feel more comfortable and actually a little bit more protected. So I would like to see more of that as well. Thank you very much.
So those are two recommendations that we've noted. Thank you, Councillor Ash.
I know the recommendations have been given by two councillors, but do the rest of the committee agree?
We'll do that at the end. We will review them and then have a vote. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. If I was to go back 3 or 4 years in this town, there's a huge amount of drug activity. Lots of county lines involved in it as well. And I just wonder what the Community Safety Partnership's current position is on this. Seems a lot quieter. It was particularly difficult in my area. Little Bowden Recreation Ground was used as for a lot of drug dealing and things like that. The former Friendship Garden was an area which was a problem as well. And I just wonder what the latest position is. These things often go on in waves. And I just wonder how it is now. I think it's settled down from what it was 3 or 4 years ago, but I'd be interested to know what the latest situation was. Police, I'm sure, will know in terms of drug activity in this town.
So yes, it is always, there are always cases of that. In terms of any county lines, I think that would have to be a question for the police. I don't have that data, and I don't that they would categorise that certainly slightly differently to how we would capture the information through the community safety partnership. But yes, drug misuse continues to be a priority of the partnership. It continues to be an issue. As Councillor Asher has said, I think we are very fortunate in Harbury District when you compare our stats to other areas. All of types of antisocial behaviour are generally very low. That doesn't mean though that there aren't pockets of issues that do have a massive impact on the community. So what we would try to do in those cases is work together as a sort of joint effort. That's always more effective. So we'd work with the police, with the housing association if it's a housing association property, and then sort of use all the different tools that we've got open to us. So yes, it is still an issue.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thank you. I get quite a few people come up to me and tell me things, being as I'm a councillor, drugs and various things. And then I've been to the police beat surgeries and told it's second-hand information from you, we can't do anything. Well, I think that's disgusting. It's ridiculous.
Any response?
I think that you'd have to speak to the police about that. That's not so. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not something we can control, I'm afraid. But yeah, I do hear what you're saying.
I think that's a general frustration many people feel. Any more questions or comments? Councillor Mahal?
Just going back to community safety casework 3.1 to 3.12, it's 30 out of 60, 30 housing associations. Any particular reason we've got like nearly half of the numbers relating more to housing, and you know others are all spread over different various issues? And is it sort of like certain times of the year that's increased? What's the sort of, if you could explain why housing associations have that?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the simple fact that it's the statistics around the the economic profile of people, particularly people who may find themselves homeless, who might be coming from complicated and vulnerable backgrounds. Sometimes they are a target for sometimes their properties become a target for other people who wish to engage in these behaviours. So I think this is it's not something that's specific to Harbour. I think it's a national statistic, and I think it just represents, sadly, sometimes the very chaotic lifestyles of the people that we are trying to support, and that inevitably attracts some of that behaviour that perhaps we wouldn't want to see. I think it does come down to that, unfortunately. We do put as much support as we possibly can in place for those individuals, but ultimately some of them are coming from fleeing domestic abuse, for example, might attract antisocial behaviour in relation to people visiting who they don't want to be visiting, and we have had a case locally of that very recently, which Councillor Page and I have been working together on. So yes, it does happen, unfortunately. I don't think it's for any other reason than that, really.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Okay, we're going to review the recommendations now. We can either vote for them as a whole or we can vote for them individually, and Democratic Services will take us through them.
We're both going, oh, do you want me to? So there is one of them that we're going to suggest a little tweak on, but just to explain, at your next meeting, you are due to have the Community Safety Partnerships Action Plan. So the recommendations you make here today can then feed into their emerging action plan. So it's really timely review. So the first recommendation was, when developing the Community Safety Partnership Action Plan, the partnership should look at how the internet and social media is driving antisocial behaviour and what prevention work is required. Then this is the second one we're just going to tweak. Because we talked about the threshold for antisocial behaviour case reviews and getting information to you. Now, I had a quick look on our website when you were discussing that, and there's some really good information, but it does say the threshold will be detailed below, and it's not then there. So, as a recommendation, the Director of Communities and Wellbeing to provide information to members on the threshold for antisocial behaviour case reviews and ensure this information is available on the Council's website. Then the third one is when developing the Community Safety Partnership Action Plan, the partnership should look to undertake preventative work in local schools if possible. And finally, when developing the Community Safety Partnership Action Plan, the partnership should look to increase patrols on open spaces to combat dog fouling and reassure local communities. Is that all correct?
Thank you. Are you happy to vote as a whole? Yes, all of them. So could I have a proposer, please? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Asher.
Yeah, and a vote overall.
So, and all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
I've got more.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 6 now. Decisions or actions taken in connection with the discharge by the council of their crime and disorder functions. Report to be introduced by Kat Harley, Director of Communities and Wellbeing, which aims to provide a review of the decisions made and action taken by Harbour District Council in connection with the discharge of its crime and disorder functions during the 25-26 municipal year. So I'll pass you over to Kat.
Thank you. Okay, so a relatively similar report. This one is much wider. So whereas the previous report, we were really focusing on the Community Safety Partnership and the work of the Community Safety team and our partners. This one is looking wider at all of the functions that the council undertakes, all of the crime and disorder functions that we undertake across a range of teams and services. Again, as per the previous report, we have a statutory duty to consider this, and this scrutiny meeting is again sort of dual purpose, is exercising that statutory duty, but also, as Leah has said, quite timely, being able to feed into the community safety plan and other plans, I'm sure. So the report sets out the information in relation to the various functions and activities that we take, which are relevant to the report. Apologies. So these include parking enforcement, commercial safety, so that's licensing, food safety and health and safety, environmental health, that includes noise complaints, air quality, pollution, private sector housing, littering and dog fouling, fly tipping and environmental crime, such as, for example, graffiti, and planning enforcement. The report is to be read in conjunction with the previous report, but as I said, it does cover a wider area. The report sets out under each of the areas that I've just talked through various information in terms of, so for example, if we go to page 43, you'll see that there is information in relation to parking enforcement, such as what has been happening, how many penalty charge notices have been served, some information about the service and the team. And then that is the same for commercial safety. This is a longer report, apologies, it's a lot of information to get through on this one. And then it continues commercial safety, etc. So it might be worth us thinking about working through it in each of those areas, just to make it a bit more logical. As per the previous report, I am going to ask Alec if he wants to add anything.
Yeah, so through you, Chair. So I really enjoyed writing this report because it covers a whole breadth of services and it was quite interesting. And what I've tried to do in the report is I've included the detail, and what I found was in some aspects they find enforcement quite challenging. So for example, in the dog fouling section of the report. But what I've also tried to do is include some context as to why we've issued certain amounts of enforcement notices or legal notices, and put some information in there about what officers tend to do when they encounter a problem or on a daily basis, just because I think it provides that context that the discussion needs to have. So as Kat said, it covers the parking, the commercial safety. So I know we touched on it earlier, but there's a bit in the report about the risk categories and the number of premises that are in each risk category. And then it also goes into the commercial safety, and it includes some information there about prosecution that happened earlier this year. or last year, sorry. And it also goes into the environmental health team. So when I did this report, I spoke to each service area and tried to collate the information and get as much background information as there as possible for you tonight. So one thing I found interesting was the range of complaints and service areas that the environmental team has to deal with. So I didn't know before I started writing this report that they're consulted on planning applications, for example, and that's quite a important way which they go about their service. And there's a bit in there about the background for each of those, and private sector housing is included as well as caravan site licensing, etc. And then moving on, there's a bit in there about littering and dog fouling. So that includes, for example, when people throw stuff out cars, how we can try and combat that, although it is difficult for the reasons outlined in the report. And then fly tipping was another big one, which should be included. So there's a bit in there about the changes which the council recently agreed to in its budget, and some statistics there about the fly tipping incidents, the number of fines and community protection warnings issued. And I found it quite interesting that it's not just fly tipping, they also go to businesses and see if they don't have the correct paperwork, how they go about ensuring that they comply with the law, because a lot of these businesses didn't really know, or I guess it wasn't really general knowledge about all the different certificates and licenses that they had to have, for example. And Michaela's here about planning, so she can answer any questions you have about the planning enforcement, but it's all outlined in the report and everything, so happy to
Thank you, Kat and Alex. We're going to open it up again for questions and comments, but again, we're really looking for recommendations. A lot of effort has gone into this report and a lot of thought and context, so I'll open it up. Councillor Asher.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of comments that may trigger something for a recommendation. I'm not sure. So over the last 4 years, this is 3.69, there's been no fixed penalty notices for dog fouling, which I would guess like a lot of areas would have given penalty notices for dog fouling, and it is something that gets complained about quite a lot in various areas by residents. So we do have it as an issue. We're not immune to it. So I'm just wondering, I mean, is that because there isn't enough people actually monitoring it? I mean, I go out with my dogs all the time. I've never seen anybody that's ever come up to me and said, have you got poo bags? So, I guess I live quite rurally though, but I do walk in Harborough sometimes, but still I've never been challenged about it. So I do wonder if that is because there isn't enough resources to actually deal with it. Is one comment on that. And then the other thing I wanted to make a comment on was the fly tipping. So we had the change of the 3 items for £10, which is costing the council, resulted in a net annual cost to the council of £37,920. And yet, when you look at the fly tipping incidents, they haven't come down that much, maybe slightly, but I mean, do we think that that is actually going to make a difference? Are people that would pay to have bulky waste removed by the council the people that were fly tipping? Because I probably don't think they are, but I'm happy to hear other people's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wonder how we can take your comments and build that into a recommendation. I'm not quite sure whether Kat or Alex is the best person on the case to answer that.
I'm going to take the dog fouling. So just on the dog fouling, Councillor Asher, in the report it outlines how it's challenging the council to enforce, and the crux of it is to enforce dog fouling effectively, they'll have to be patrolling pretty much every hour or every day, and it's really hard to catch someone in the act of not picking up their dog. So it is difficult, and it is, yeah, that's the crux of it. But I know from speaking to the team, they've recently increased patrols in the Great Glen area after reports of increased dog fouling.
I guess is there like, I suppose people can report it, but I guess do people know how to report it? Is there an easy way for people to report it? Because maybe if there was, and it was made easy and there was signs put up in the area, people would be more inclined to report it. And then you could sort of go out and catch the culprits. If there's somebody that sees somebody every morning, for example, not picking up, and then they ring this like a Crime Stoppers type thing. It's not a massive crime in the centre, I admit, but it could be one way to sort of help with that. If there was more like a targeted line to report it easily.
Yep, did we make, sorry, Kat, did you want to reply?
Yeah, it's very similar to fly tipping actually, in terms of the evidential issues that we face. So to get to a successful issuing of a fixed penalty notice for dog fouling, we would need to have that report. We would need to have that report accompanied by evidence. We would then need to be able to identify the perpetrator from the evidence. Then we'd need to find out where they live, and then we'd need to go and serve them a note. If you can. I'm being flippant, but yeah, it's a lot that has to be pulled together. It does happen. You can report it on the website. Leah's just helpfully noticed actually that the link seems to have been broken, so we'll get that fixed. That happens from time to time when pages are updated and they're linked to other pages, so we'll get that fixed. Yes, you can report it on the website. That's exactly what happened in Great Glen. We got so many reports that we were like, right, we need to go out and patrol now, because so we are proactive where we get reports. Unfortunately, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of green spaces in the district. We don't have the resources to be patrolling them all the time, so we are reliant on getting those complaints, but that explains why we're so unsuccessful really in being able to issue those notices.
Yeah, that's great. So we can advise our residents to report online then. Yeah, thank you.
Being a resident of Kibworth, one of the biggest increases we've had have been in dog bins, but sadly people still don't use them. I walk my dog and every day I come across the park and it baffles me, to be very honest. But so Councillor Mahal?
Actually, that's just reminded me of we've in Great Glen we have a park where there's a dog bin within the park itself, but I don't know, are you allowed to even walk dogs in a play park? Not sure.
What that?
I'm afraid I don't know I'd have to have a look at that. I'm afraid. No, not generally, but it depends where it's been located. Yeah.
But on a positive, I'd like to say, thank you very much for Great Glen. If it's, the reporting's helped to have some patrols. So I'm, pleased to hear that for Great Glen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bromley?
Yeah, thanks. 2 points. The first one's a bit facetious. On page 43, paragraph 34, my recommendation is the authorities need to get some legwork done for LGR. That might be a recommendation. The other recommendation, which might create more work and therefore more monitoring of it, is on page 50, 3.5. Because of the introduction of the Renters Act 2025, there could be more people reporting things. And do we have a mechanism for them to report such things? Thank you.
Kat, do you want?
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely. We are, there's a lot of work going on in this area at the moment. We have a new member of staff as well, we've recruited, utilising some of the new burdens funding, because the Renters' Rights Act 2025 has placed a significant additional amount of work on local authorities. So yeah, we're doing a lot of work around this at the moment, not only in terms of taking reports, but actually proactively going out and inspecting properties, understanding property information and all that sort of thing. So yes, we're doing a lot around that at the moment. But absolutely, yeah, people can report. They can report on the website in the usual way for any issue, or they can get in touch with the team. There is a mailbox for the team as well.
Thank you for the third time, Councillor Moder. Well,
Thanks,
Takes me
Chair.
to it. I am a man. That's my only excuse.
Thanks, Chair. And I really shouldn't smile at this, but I don't know, it just makes me smile because with the dog poo and the reporting, is it is it anonymous? Can people report it anonymously? Because I know that in villages, people tend to not want to upset their neighbours. You know what I mean? Because in our village, everyone seems to have these ring doorbells that catch people in the act. And then they put on the chat, if so and so question mark doesn't come and pick up their whatever, we're going to send the picture out to everyone. And then, whoever it is goes and sort of, so that's like in a little village. So somewhere like Great Glen or somewhere else, can people actually like take a picture and then send it in anonymously because they don't want to be a target? Is that something that
It isn't generally possible to make a report to the council on many things anonymously because when you complete, it asks for your details. What I would say is we would not share complainant details with the offender. However, we do recognise that it's not going to take some people very long to work out who it might have been. And I think that's the case across the whole, because it's something that we get asked a lot around anonymous reporting. I have to say some of the information that's set out in this report, so planning enforcement is a really good example actually, where we wouldn't open an enforcement case. I think I'm right in saying that onto an anonymous complaint because the consequences are so much more serious. So you're into a very different sort of second set of circumstances with potentially going to court and that sort of thing. Yes, as I say, I don't think we would insist on somebody providing their details, but I don't think it would take long for people to. People are generally very good at doing.
It's such a sensitive issue though, because I think it depends on where you live and what sort of size the village is or the town is. But just for an example is we have a lady in our village who's a dog trainer and she's up at 6 o'clock every morning screaming at dogs and you can hear her. And there's people in the village who are sort of saying to me, can someone just go around and have a word with her? The 6 o'clock is too early to be sort of, and no one dares sort of go and, and I just sort of thought, if someone was able to sort of just message in, because it's that sort of, it's obviously upsetting people, but they don't want to, or they can't write in because of fear. There's only so many people in the village. They don't want to fall out because she's a lovely lady, But anyway, it just makes me smile.
Kat, did you want to reply?
Yeah, I think with those sorts of cases, if it's affecting a lot of people, it's a bit easier because we wouldn't provide the name of the complainant to the I keep saying perpetrator, that sounds a bit strong, but you know what I mean. For purposes of illustration, I think in that case would be slightly different. If we'd had a complaint, we would probably be, it'd probably be quite easy for us to go out and to witness that ourselves. It sounds like it's quite frequent and loud. So yeah.
I think one of the interesting things in Kidworth is people are letting their dogs poo and then they're picking it up, putting it in a plastic bag and leaving the plastic bag, which is mind-boggling really. I think it's one of these problems that will go on and on. I think Councillor James?
Thank you, Chairman. Just changing the subject. It's on fly tipping, and I know it's early days in terms of the changes on the bulky waste collection, but I'm just interested to know how they're going to work, because we've got an arrangement where we can people can phone up and get 3 large household items or 12 sacks at a cost of £10, which is a very good deal. How is that working? Because our contractor will not pick that up for £10, will he? So how is that working financially? Are we subsidising it? I mean, I know we've got extra money in here. Is this how it's working? Are we subsidising the bulky waste collection? Is that what's happening in practice?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, so the way it works is we pay our contractor, FCC Environmental, an annual contract fee to carry out the service for us. So we haven't changed the number of household bulky waste collection slots that are available. So they are still providing the same service as they were providing before. So that hasn't changed.
I'm charging the same fee for doing it.
No. So they are still providing the same service.
Right.
What has happened is we've just reduced the cost of that service. Now, the income that we were getting from the bulky waste collections was helping us to offset the cost of the contract with FCC. So if we have lower income, that's less money that we're getting in to offset. So it is costing the council. So yes, we are subsidising that change. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Moda.
Um, how is it with electrical items, fridges and freezers and that sort of thing? Is that still on hold?
I believe it is at the moment. Yes, that's a specific issue which is not related to our collection. It's related to the other end as to where they're taken. And there was an issue that the county council were having. Don't think they've fully resolved that yet, but they are working on that.
Great, because I have seen quite a few of those being dumped on the side that I have reported. So I'm just wondering if there's a time scale, you know, are we looking at 6 months or 3 months, or we don't know?
No, we're not looking at that length of time at all, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, it should be relatively soon. We will, if there are vulnerable people or people who are unable to dispose of those items, we will go and collect. We will still go and collect those and store them ourselves temporarily. We've only suspended the service for those people who want to book it in as a bulky waste collection, but we will bring that back as soon as we can.
So do vulnerable people know about this, that they are able to contact you? Is it on the website?
I'm not entirely sure if they working on the website, so I'll check on that. Yeah.
Sure, we should pick that up, trying to make sure vulnerable people are aware of this. I think fly tipping's a bit like dog poos. It's like it's a society thing. Again, most weeks I come across it. So, Councillor Austin.
Thanks, Chair. Jumping forward a bit to page 50 under pollution control. In 344, you mentioned the permitted processes within the district for large-scale operations and such, and it mentions there the animal rendering plant in Market Harbour. I'm presuming that's for things like roadkill and things like that, where they're picked up. No. So what are we actually talking about there then?
The animal rendering plant that's referred to in the report is PAIRS. So PAIRS is an operation that sits between Market Harbour and the A6 roundabout. But you know where, yeah, you know, everyone know where I mean, where the garage is with the Marks and Spencer's thing inside and McDonald's. So that is an animal rendering plant. So it's a licensed plant for the rendering of animal byproduct. So animal byproduct is an essential part of the animal food production chain and process. So without animal rendering plants, we couldn't eat meat, because what happens is you go through the whole process of you know, the animals being what's the word I'm looking for? Slaughtered. I'm trying to think of a more sort of, yeah. Yes, basically. And then they go into, so then the meat goes to lots of different forms of what are essentially butchers, but you get different forms of butchers. So you get your local independent butchers all the way up to your massive industrial scale operations that tend to be based more down towards in the south of the country. PAIRS predominantly pick animal byproduct up from those facilities, and they bring them in very large HGVs to the plant, and then they process that product into sort of biscuit and meal that's then used for pet food, so dog food and that sort of thing. So what you're looking at typically are things like offcuts of chicken or the bits that aren't used for any part of the human food chain that you wouldn't sell. So that's what they do.
So can I just ask, because obviously we get quite a lot of pollution. You could call it pollution because of roadkill animals, things, you know, deer, rabbits, dogs, whatever. And I know that we have. Is that a service that is operated by Harbour District Council? Is it county? Does it come under county? Does it? So because they'll have a wagon that goes out and just picks up all the roadkill, and then that gets taken. I thought it would get taken to a rendering plant, but obviously I'm wrong.
Vets.
It would be taken to incineration.
Incineration.
But yeah, not necessarily. It would depend on, obviously, it isn't suitable for putting into even the animal food market. So you generally wouldn't use it for that. So it would go for incineration, but not incineration where you like the pears plant.
Good. And do we have our own incinerator for that? Or was that again done through county?
We don't have an incinerator. No, that's not one of our functions. No.
Councillor Elliott?
I notice around the roads and that there's a lot of polystyrene from new washing machines and that being dumped. Is there no way that can be collected? I don't think it is collected at the moment, is it?
Whereabouts is that? Sorry.
Well, all over the place. It's been dumped everywhere.
So Kat, do you want to try?
It is.
I have to say I'm really this is the best questions I've been asked in a very long time. I'm very much enjoying this. So it would depend. It would basically be counted as litter and detritus, and it would depend on how it's deposited. So if you've got large amounts of it, that would be classed as a fly tip. If it's down the side of the road, that would be picked up through litter picks, which is either the Highways Agency or the County Council or even the litter wombles, depending on who gets to it first. So it really just depends on where it is and who collects the litter and detritus in that area.
There's no way that the refuge collectors can collect it.
Yeah, the FCC Recycling provide our fly tipping service. So yes, in some cases they would collect it. It just depends where it is. I mean, if they drive past and they see it, they'll pick it up.
Yeah, but what if it's somebody's house? Get it before it's dumped?
No, that's not a service that we provide. No.
All right.
No.
Any other questions? I think a thought that I've had, possibly a recommendation. There are people that go along our roads and streets, litter wombling all of the time, and I have to say they do a fantastic job. I don't know whether the council does anything to support them or to say the good job that they do. Do we do anything like that? Do we say well done to the litter womblers of Great Glen or Kibworth? And if we don't, shouldn't we do that, because that is a community thing and they are people doing it in their own time?
Yes, we do. We do from time to time. We thank them in public meetings and that sort of thing. They do have, they're very active on social media, so they do get a lot of feedback from the community on there, but I'm sure they would very much appreciate a thank you at any opportunity.
That would be my recommendation, a very big thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, we're going to review the recommendations now. So Lee? Sorry?
Yeah, thank you. So the first recommendation I picked up is to ensure the website has the means through which people can report people for dog fouling, just making sure that's all up to date and everything. So Kat might want to come in on this one because I'm conscious she hasn't had a chance to update the panel. But the panel to receive an update as to the action used to monitor the impact of the reduction of the bulky waste fee to £10. And the third one is to request an update from the County Council regarding its plans for resolving the issues surrounding the disposal of electrical waste, and for the Council to review the information on its website that assists vulnerable people in disposing of their waste. And then the fourth one that I picked up just from yourself is either that officers explore how the Council can best support the Litter Wombles activity, or that we write to them and just say thank you.
Okay, is that all the recommendations? Councillor Mahal?
There's one person's name that comes to mind is Bob Lee. He seemed to have started something off, a long while ago, and he seems to have loads of followers who are the Wombles. But I've gone out with them myself.
Oh, well, then perhaps we should take the name, yes.
Perhaps what we could do for this one is we could have the Chair of Scrutiny writes on behalf of the committee to say thank you to the Little Wombles.
Is that a recommendation, yes? So, panel, you've heard the recommendations. Are you prepared to vote for them as a whole? Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Austin and seconder, Councillor Asher. Thank you. All in favour? And the motion is passed. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to number 7, Services and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Panel Draft Work Plan. Report to be introduced by the Democratic Service Officers, Alex Swatton, and seeks to obtain the panel's agreement to approve the work plan for 26-27 and consider whether any further items or any items brought to Cabinet should be considered for inclusion in the panel's work plan. So, pass you over to Alex.
Yes, thank you. So this is the procedural report which outlines the panel's work plan for the forthcoming year. And as outlined in the report, the work plan has been populated using a combination of items previously referred to the panel from various sources, including there was a meeting, I can't remember whether it was in July or late May after annual council, but there was a work plan setting meeting from the both panels put together and populated that. So the work plan will be reviewed at each meeting, and for this year we've asked councillors when they submit work plans to just do it quite detailed and look what they're getting out of the discussion. So it's more of a, you can come to us and we'll review it and then we can do the best job we possibly can. And there is, I think Leah might correct me here, but there was a online form where you can submit topics for proposal for discussion. I'm not sure if that's still open, but you can feel free to use that. So the report outlines the work plan in Appendix A, and basically you have to agree it tonight. It's for your agreement tonight.
Any questions? Councillor Asher?
Just a comment really. So at the other scrutiny meeting that I was on, I asked if we could consider putting on a work plan, Tin House Farm, so that the business case can come forward for us to look at and scrutinise, because it's had obviously big changes to what it looked like before. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? So go for a vote then. Could I have a proposal, please? Sorry, Councillor James?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
there
working
you
now.
go.
Right, okay. Sorry, Chairman, stop you. Right, I just wanted to make a comment generally. I'm not normally on this group, but thanks to Leah, yeah, it's okay. Thanks to Leah, I've been on a training course with the East Midlands on scrutiny. I am on the other scrutiny group, and it was incredibly interesting. And very wide ranging. It was East Midlands, we've got Derbyshire there as well, Rutland were there. And we're sharing best practice amongst the scrutiny. Now, we operate mostly inwardly. In other words, we're feeding information to Cabinet and recommending changes and maybe additional items. What was interesting from the other groups was the sort of things that they are doing, which is different to what we are generally doing. And I'm talking about this group and not the performance one. But from the other authorities, they were very much outward, like going out in the community, dealing with community issues, and the sort of things they'd organisations they had in to talk to them were water companies, with the police who come in on a regular basis in terms of their performance and explain to scrutiny what they're doing. Blue badge policies, GP surgeries, I've mentioned that before, housing associations, customer services data, and fly tipping as a subject as well. But a lot of the other scrutiny groups within the East Midlands are calling in organisations to understand how they're working and maybe to share some of the issues, some of the difficulties. I just make that as a comment really, because that came over very powerfully to me attending these training courses.
Okay, thank you. but we need to,
It's simply a comment I make at the moment in the way that
we
others are
really need
working.
to refer
Yeah.
to the report, don't
So-
we?
In terms of what you're talking about, we have had some discussions at scrutiny meeting. In fact, we did, I think was it April, we looked at the outcomes of a survey of scrutiny members, and part of that was trying to get more outside bodies to come in. So 29th of October, we've got register providers. We are really keen to try and get them to come before scrutiny to talk about their customer service, how they deal with complaints, how they respond to their residents, how they support their residents. So we are really keen to have that. And hopefully also that day, we'll have the chair of the Community Safety Partnership talking about their action plan. So that's definitely too. We do have to be careful though. So when you're talking about police, the police and crime panel have their own scrutiny arrangements. So they would be going there. When you're talking about GP service, surgeries and practices, it's really hard to get the NHS in because the county are the NHS scrutiny body. So they are obliged to go to county who will hold them to account and have powers to hold them to account that we don't. So it's really difficult for us to scrutinise anything NHS. That would change with unitary authorities because we'll be part of that, of course. So that is a positive in unitary. In terms of what Councillor Ash was mentioning with Tin House Farm, so that is the site that was previously purely for rewilding and for waste depot. Cabinet on Monday night said actually what they'd like to look with one of the parcels of land is for using that as for cemetery provision because there's a shortage in cemetery provision in Market Harborough. So that would be waste depot site, cemetery provision site and rewilding as well. But that is a project work and I think what you're asking for is for some form of scrutiny review and oversight. So if this committee wanted to, it could look at how that project is developing and progressing, potentially on its meeting on the 25th of February, partly because your next meeting, you've got a couple of big chunky items and 29th of April. In the February one, which is probably a good time because it allows, 6 months on, but you've already got tourism strategy, young people strategy and CCTV going to that meeting. So the April meeting has just got a couple of items. So potentially that meeting would be good to have that's, I think we're calling it, is it strategic asset site?
The recent cabinet report referred to it as strategic land holding. Yeah.
So an update on the council's strategic land holding plans and how those are progressing could be in April.
It feels like a long time to wait till April.
Yes, yep.
I'm sure the cabinet is going to receive paperwork on progress of all strategic assets, and members can, attend the cabinet and ask questions of that. I am 50-50 on this recommendation, actually, but because the other point really is that whichever cabinet is in charge of this council, on whatever colour or whatever flavour, they have the authority to make their decisions. And we're all elected on the basis of the community's wish. And, the cabinet can make their decisions. Obviously, those decisions should be scrutinised, but this parcel of land has been around this council for at least 3 years, I think. Is that right? 2 years. And I'm going to say this anyway, sorry, but the concept of a country park, and I've said this at full council, in my mind is not in this area because it doesn't have a focal point. It doesn't have a wow factor like a castle or a mountain or a body of water. That's what a country park is. It has something special. That's probably a history of the landscape that we have in this area. But these parcels of land have been gone through scrutiny for so many times. There's still rewilding. There's still the depot. And the other parcel land, which is across a road, for goodness sake. Accessibility across those two sites is almost impossible. The town needs a cemetery site, and this is an opportunity granted that the soil sampling works, Chair, comes back positive to actually put a cemetery into that location. But you can scrutinise it if you want. I would be reticent about it.
Councillor Asher.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that members of the town were very excited about a country park. It was a project of national significance, and I feel like it's just been sort of tossed aside. And I feel like a cemetery next to a waste depot is a little bit iffy. And all the wording in cabinet papers was potential this, potential that. When I was on cabinet, we were trying to get that land protected so it can't be built on. There is no word in that cabinet report about whether that has happened or is going to happen. And the fear of the residents and myself is that that area could end up being developed, and it won't be what the council spent the money on it for, you know, what was in mind at the beginning. And I think we lack a country park. You may say we haven't got a castle, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. When I lived in Firmiston, we hadn't got any of those things either, but we had a fantastic country park that was man-made. And it, you know, still used now by many people in Leicester and Firmiston and Birstall. And we haven't got that in this area. I think when I looked it up, there's 2 country parks listed for South Leicestershire, one in Lutterworth, one in Broughton Astley, nothing in Market Harborough. There's loads in Northamptonshire. We haven't got anything around here. In Harborough District, I think, yeah, we've just got 2 and they're not significant. So I feel like it needs scrutinising. The new plans, they do need to be looked at. When the original plans were put in place, it came to scrutiny. It's only fair that now they've changed, they come back. Thank you.
Councillor James.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, listening to Dr. Councillor Bremner there. One of the things, again, that from the other authorities that I picked up that operate a bit differently to the way we do is that Cabinet actually throw work to scrutiny. You know, and it could be something like that, see, that maybe what Cabinet should have done with the rewilding project that's going all over the place a bit at the moment, is throw it back to scrutiny and you do some work on it and you come back to us, come back to Cabinet with your recommendations. We don't do that much, do we? I don't think the Cabinet's using scrutiny as much as perhaps they should do. And that was evident from some of the other authorities that I took part in with a training session. I mean, I think the rewilding project does need a lot of scrutiny, and perhaps it's not had that yet.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
As I understand there are conflicting views on this, but also strong views both ways. So I wanted to try and resolve this, because what we're talking about is an idea rather than a more developed concept at this point. So I wonder if Councillor Asher, if we perhaps send you the work programme item form to fill in to set out your rationale and understanding why you feel it should come before us. And then that'll enable the members to make an informed decision based on how you're feeling about this and what direction you could then take with the scrutiny review.
But would that be available for all of us to see? So, yeah. So, Councillor Austin.
Just on the rewilding project and the land around it, I think I read recently that there's been quite a lot of uptake from the Wildlife Trust and other bodies out there where it comes to parks, country parks and places of natural interest. And I believe that's already been put in motion over there anyway. And I think that the local wildlife trust now have taken on a large portion of the land, as well as the waterways. They're getting involved with it as well. So I think there is quite a lot of stuff going on down there at the moment. And on that basis, I'm inclined to side, you know, with the way that Dr. Bremner's saying here and saying that really, you know, I'm sort of 50-50 with it as well myself.
Thank you. I mean, my understanding is that there's a lot of work going on, and it's a decision that we can't make. The question is really, do we want to scrutinise it as it goes along? But did you say something was coming up again in April?
So the tricky bit is your work programme at the moment is really quite full. So you've got 3 items. I think, although your next meeting, you've only got 2 items, that does include the registered housing providers, which I know members really want, and you really want to be pushing that. So that could be quite a long item. And then your next meeting after that, you've already got 3 items on. So it's difficult to find space in the work programme before that, unless you have an extraordinary meeting. So it's not council though this time. So what we could do is get that item from Councillor Asher, circulate it, understand your views potentially via email, so you come back to us individually rather than a big debate via email. We could then get a position where we understand that, discuss that with the chair, because we'll have to appoint a chair on September 28th, and vice chair should also be appointed, and then take a view on what the majority think and feel and how to move forward from there. And if necessary, we can then bring it back as part of your next discussion on your work programme, which unfortunately is October, but that would enable us to move forward on it.
Obviously, this is quite divisive. Is everybody happy with that position? Okay, so we're going to vote on that separately.
Vote on the work programme.
Okay, so that will come up. That will be part of the work programme now. So we need to vote for the work programme. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Austin, thank you. A seconder. And Councillor James, thank you. All in favour? It's passed. Thank you. Okay, we come to any other business. I'd like to thank you for your patience tonight on my first attempt at being a chair. It's been nice to see you all, and I wish you all well. And with that, I will close the meeting.